All right, for group 2, so we're starting with Alexa's work. So this looks like your denotative and I believe your connotative right here. So we're doing the Dirty Lemon Martini. I think this looks a little bit better. I'm still not so sure why we're putting this on a diagonal. I need a little bit more reasoning as to why that is. And I think overall, when we're using the whole layout in general, we tend to lose the white space. So I think you've got areas over here that you can close up, right? Especially in between your paragraphs, your instructions, and your ingredients. So I would say close some of those up and see if you can create a little bit more white space, either on the top or on the bottom. And it looks like delicious citrusy martini is your pull quote, but it seems like a title treatment for some reason, unless Dirty Lemon Delicious Citrusy Martini is your whole title treatment. So what I would say is try to make your title either on the bottom or at the top. I think these two right now are competing with each other just because of the sheer size of this font right here. So kind of contain your two paragraphs, your ingredients and instructions, add a little bit more less space in between, and see if one of those can either go up the top with these guys or one of these guys can come down to join in on where the title is. But I think right now it's just a little confusing as to which is the title and which is the pull quote. So I hope that helps. So for your connotative, I think there's a little bit more structure here. There seems to be some kind of areas where you do have effects, which is nice. I would like to see this maybe in other areas, like where you bring some of the color out, which is nice to see. I think you don't need to hyphenate. I think you can get away with just putting delicious on one sentence without having to do that. All right, and I think Dirty Martini, see what this looks like if you start to align the Y to the top of the Y. I'm sorry, the Y to the top of the M, just to kind of get a little bit more structured in there. But I think overall the stressed look is nice. Maybe bring that into the background as well. That way we can really get a sense of like what this textured background really means to this overall recipe. So I hope that helps. Let's move on to Danielle's work. So Danielle did the sushi rolls. And I think this is nice how this turned out. Looks like we're looking at your denotative and your connotative. So this looks like a nice set together. So we see that the denotative has a little bit less boldness, but it has very subtle qualities that you can see in even the connotative version. What I would only recommend, Danielle, is when we zoom in, you might want to add a little bit more space in between the lighter weight areas right here with your type and the bold typefaces. It's getting a little bit too close for comfort, okay? I think it's nice that you've put this in a centered layout, like so, almost like a plate setting, which is nice. And then you have your large type right here. So very nicely done, very elegant. Just kind of keep in mind readability right here, okay? Those do look like, I want to say, pull quotes. Yeah, nice to meet you. Those are nice. I mean, I don't want to see them upside down. That's the only thing. Is there a way to put them maybe right side up? Like instead of having to do this upside down, you kind of put this way right here so we can actually read it. I think I gave that piece of advice to another student who was also doing like the apple pie. I think that was Sean maybe. So let's try to read this. It's gonna, unfortunate we can't. Nice to meet you. Who needs who needs gender roles when you have sushi rolls? I'm serious. You need to like flip this. This is stuff you don't want to miss. All right. I would say the same thing for your second line on top, just so that we can get more sense of personality as to what you're writing here, because this is cute. So let's kind of give it more space and give it the real estate that it deserves. Okay, but overall, great job on this one. Then for your connotative, this is nice. I'm seeing some kind of awkwardness in your spiral right here. It looks like there's some kind of a curve that kind of abruptly goes down instead of it being like a circular curve, what you see here. So just gonna work on that a little bit more. But I think how you've translated the I would say how you translated your title from a thin to a bold version right here works out nicely with the contrast of the lighter face subtitle right here, and then your paragraphs like so. See if you can play around with these particular pull quotes. Maybe there's a way to see if it looks better in a lighter weight, but you don't want it to overpower certain areas right here. So I'm seeing that it's becoming a little too close to the edge of this area right here. Same thing with these guys. They're just coming a little too close to your spiral. So either make them a little bit smaller or thinner. But I think overall this is such a nice way to illustrate a recipe. It's just different than what you see in a typical recipe card. So I hope you guys are kind of enjoying this process by looking at a recipe in a different way, which would be a breath of fresh air, in all honesty, when you just see it typographically done, just experimenting with different layouts. So good job on this one. Next we have Sean. So Sean did apple pie. This is pretty simple, straightforward, to the point. It reads as a denotative. I'm wondering if there's something else we can do. It just seems very safe for now. This looks like a very traditional, recipe card. And I'm trying to get you guys to stay away from that. And I do want you to experiment more, even though it is your denotative. I still like for you to experiment more with the denotative and look at your overall layout, okay? In comparison to your connotative, I mean, it's night and day. I like where this is going, and I think it's just very playful and interesting how your paragraphs weave in and out of each other, and they read properly too. So, Danielle, this is what I was referring to for your type right here, is to just flip it over so that you can read it. So Sean right here shows his type right here that is easily readable, even though it's on the bottom part of the circle, but we can still read it clearly. And it would be nice to see that on your version as well. Sean, just be careful with how close you're getting to your what looks like your instructions over here. So those are getting a little bit too uncomfortable. This area right here, address that. Also right here, just address that. It's nice when we see just some white space here, since we can see the weave a little bit easier too. The in and out, top and bottom weaves, okay? So careful with that and your overall spacing. I think just in general, it's just a beautiful layout. And I wish there was something about this we can bring into your denotative. I just think like you've done such a amazing job with this that I really would like to see something change over here. It just looks a little too safe and plain for me. Okay, well, let's see if we can do something else with this version for yours. But overall, you're in a good place. Let's just experiment a little bit more with this right here. Okay, next we have Jake. Jake is doing chicken what? Fettuccine? Is that chicken Alfredo? Fettuccine. Okay. Okay, so we're looking at the connotative. And Jake, so it is a little bit difficult when we start to get too small with the spirals right here, and they are getting a little bit too difficult to read, like so. Okay, so we might need to rethink this a little bit and see if maybe there's things about this wave-like pattern that we can bring into your layout. Not everything has to be, you know, jazzed up. So I'm not sure what this line is, if that's pasta, but we do need to get rid of anything that is not type. Again, with these guys as well. You're only putting type. If these are letter forms or parts of your characters or parts of your, they can be random letter forms, but I just don't want you to do this with any graphic support, okay? See if there's something about this wave-like pattern that you can bring into your directions and your instructions list, okay? And then for your denotative, I think this works well. I like how you structured your layout nicely. It's still a little bit too difficult to read. Fettuccine, I think you're missing the fettuccine part, right? So that we need to work on a little bit. And then we have some white space going on, which is starting to kind of be a little awkward because we want this to have some kind of purpose. If this is a space for another word or maybe a pull quote of sorts, that could be an area for it. So just kind of look out for areas like this. And then I would say if you're breaking up the word, try to align certain areas either to this part of your layout or the paragraph, and make sure that this paragraph lines up with this paragraph. So if I draw a ruler right here, a line, it should all line up, okay? Kind of like the edge of your U lines up with this paragraph right here. And then careful with how close you're getting to certain areas. That starts to have some uncomfortable looking angles for your reader. So you want to make sure you maintain that sense of readability. I would just say reevaluate how your title is reading, because it's a little bit difficult to read fettuccine, Alfredo fettuccine chicken. So just evaluate how your reader goes through your title and reads the overall name. Okay, so that was the end of group 2. I will see you guys in the next video for group 3.